Steven Seagal has a gun on him.
Okay.
Everywhere he goes.
Hello and welcome to all you hard asses out there that just can't get enough brain dead action. So, today we'll be talking about a man that you all love or love to hate. And that is...
I'm gonna keep coming back till somebody remembers seeing Richie.
So before we start breaking bones here today, why don't you hit that like and subscribe button? Okay, so the big question of the day. Does Steven Seagal actually carry a gun in real life? And of course, this video wouldn't be complete unless we put two martial arts legends up against each other. And those guys happens to be Steven Seagal and Chuck Norris. Let the drama begin. So in the world of action movies, why would any hero ever need a gun? Especially if your name is Steven Seagal and martial arts is your life. Even Arnold, that has no background in fighting, can still beat up an army of bad guys. And remember what they said about Chuck Norris in the movie, an eye for an eye.
He is a weapon.
Chuck Norris is so cool, so he doesn't need to carry a gun. And he doesn't have any bodyguards either, probably because he can beat them all up.
Anyone actually, I don't walk around bodyguards and all this stuff.
We all know the old expression, there are two certainties in life, death and taxes. However, that does not apply to Chuck Norris, because the man is so badass, so the Internal Revenue Services are so afraid of him. In fact, Chuck Norris doesn't even need to make an appointment at the local IRS office if he owes them money. He simply goes down there, knocks on the door, and gives them some peace of mind. Okay, so back to the question about Seagal. The man is a 7th degree black belt in Aikido and has studied a ton of other types of martial arts. So why on earth would he ever need to carry a gun? Now, is it possible that the man is a little paranoid and fear for his life because he has a lot of haters out there? I have to admit, that sounds a little scary, but very interesting. Now let me tell you a quick story that relates to this. This big beautiful house that you see was on the market about 2 years ago, and yes, it belonged to Steven Seagal himself. It's located in Scottsdale, Arizona, and as you can see, it's absolutely spectacular. I certainly wouldn't mind trading in my shithole for this beautiful dream house. Anyway, here's the crazy stuff. The entire house has bulletproof windows everywhere. Something tells me that Seagal has a thing for glass and windows, and perhaps he's afraid that someone will do to him what he normally does to the bad guys in the movies. Anyway, let the drama continue. So over the years, Steven Seagal must have given hundreds, if not thousands of interviews. And one interviewer once described this. Apparently Seagal once showed up to an interview in which he had brought a good old fanny pack, and apparently he had about 5 handguns inside of it, and the man said that Seagal had been very paranoid about it. Okay, so in Seagal's defense, in America there's something called the Second Amendment, so it's not exactly like the man was breaking any laws here, and that was just a few guns out of over 300 million in the entire country, so no big deal. Or maybe just maybe Seagal was a little uncomfortable and nervous about this interview, so the man wanted to be prepared for anything. Or what do you think? So what else did they find out about Mr. Seagal during this interview? Now obviously I can't verify any of this, but the interviewer also said when they put a microphone on Steven Seagal, his assistant told him that Seagal was wearing a bulletproof vest under his shirt. The most interesting and extreme part about this was when Steven Seagal actually arrived in his Tony Starkish Batman-mobile. Apparently it was an SUV that looked like something Elon Musk had designed. The interviewer was told that it had bulletproof windows and a bulletproof frame. And they were told by Steven Seagal himself that the vehicle could withstand an RPG attack. And apparently it could also protect the person inside from a chemical attack as well. Just in case someone decided to go after Seagal and their weapon of choice was nerve gas. Okay, now that sounds more like a movie compared to real life, but hey, what do I know? I wasn't there. Now, just for the hell of it, what would an attack like that on Steven Seagal's life actually look like? Check this out. Operation Kill Steven Seagal. Most people probably would have died from that, but Steven Seagal, being an action star and all, actually survived the attack. I know, right? However, as you can see, the man was a little banged up and he did spend a little bit of time in a coma. And when he eventually came around, he looked more like hipster Jesus. Eventually, he started feeling better. He got up, he joined the gym, he did some hiking in the mountains while tracking down the man that was responsible for the attack. Eventually, he found him and then all hell broke loose. I'm sorry guys, I got a little carried away with the action there, so let's get this video back on track. Alright fellas, so what do you think? You think that the man is slightly paranoid? Or do you think that the man is like a Boy Scout and always prepared?
Freeze, motherfucker!
Most weapons experts in this world, including John Wick himself, that has killed 500 people, are using 2 hands to reload a gun. But not Seagal. All the man needs is just 2 fingers. By now, I think we have established that Steven Seagal is a dude that you don't want to fuck with. Otherwise, this may happen to you.
Ouch!
Yeah, that definitely hurts alright. By now, you probably think that Steven Seagal is one of the baddest people that ever lived. But, let's not forget this fella. Yes, that's right. Chuck Norris is so cool, so he actually built the hospital that he was born in, and then he drove his mom home from the hospital. The man also dials 911 on a regular basis, simply to see if they need his help. Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention, the man can also move his legs like some crazy ballerina. Check this out. Okay, Van Damme maybe knows how to do the split and the fancy helicopter kicks that looks really cool on screen, but Chuck Norris is the real deal. And he always was and always will be. Okay, so in my mind, the biggest martial arts action star, at least in Hollywood in the 1980s, it has to be Chuck Norris. It really wasn't until the late 1980s that Steven Seagal and Jean-Claude Van Damme made it big with movies like Above the Law and Bloodsport. And then, of course, they totally dominated the 90s. However, since this video is mostly about Seagal and Norris, let's try to make some comparisons and see what would happen if things got a little ugly between them. Okay, so some people have said that it's childish and perhaps even unfair to compare an 83-year-old former karate champion to a 71-year-old Aikido master. And yeah, you can say there's a case to be made. However, this is YouTube and this is the Manly channel. So guys, if you want to scratch your nasty ass or your fat balls, go ahead and do so, because things are about to get really, really nasty. Let's start with Mr. Seagal, aka the Bone Breaker. The man is mostly known for Aikido in the world of martial arts and action movies. However, a lot of people actually forget or simply don't know that he has also studied karate, judo, tai chi and kung fu, just to name a few. Okay, so some of you guys that have followed this channel for a while know that I like to fuck around, tell some bad jokes, etc. However, I also have a more serious side. Like, I have some questions that I would like answered. And based on you guys in the comment section, I can tell that about 50% of you guys totally respect the man. And the other 50% of you guys think that the man is a big joke. This is very much equivalent to politics. People believe what they want to believe. And I would say just because you don't like Steven Seagal as a human being, as a martial artist, as an action star, whatever, that does not mean that the man cannot fight. My own personal opinion, being a hater in this world has never solved any problems. But hey, enough of that. Let's see what Seagal has to offer. Okay, so let's take a look at Steven Seagal's fighting pose. For many years I always wondered, why does the man always stand with his hands like this? Whether it's in the movies, on the red carpet, pretty much anywhere. Well, here's why.
This is my fighting pose.
Yeah.
And from here, I might do this. I've already killed you, but I have this now.
Alright, so there you have it. Mr. Seagal's secret fighting pose in public. What's really interesting, a lot of martial arts masters and grandmasters definitely respect Seagal. Whereas most of Seagal's haters are actually people that have never studied martial arts at all. But it doesn't take much to be opinionated these days. Just turn on the TV or keep surfing around on the web. In my own experience in life, when I look around, I see the people that talk the most, they accomplish the least. Remember the old expression, action speaks louder than words. It's a well-known fact that a lot of people over the years, celebrities as well as non-celebrities, have tried to challenge Steven Seagal to a fight. But usually when they have done that, there's always been a camera around and a lot of attention. It always makes me wonder, why would someone actually have the need to do that? Anyway, here's how Seagal is responding to those challenges. Seagal said, "There will be no money involved. Come with no cameras, nobody's gonna see it, and there are no rules." And according to Seagal himself, nobody ever showed up. Steven Seagal's background is very impressive. He's a 7th degree black belt in Aikido. He speaks fluent Japanese, and I guess you can almost call him the king of Aikido. His very first movie, Above the Law, showed the world something that most people had never seen before. Very brutal realism mixed with Aikido. Okay, so obviously there are a lot of not so pleasant stories about Steven Seagal, but honestly, how much of it do you know to be true? How much of it is exaggerated? And how much of it is absolutely not true? I live right here in Hollywood and I've seen a lot of unpleasant things. So many times have I seen celebrities being thrown under the bus simply just for saying or tweeting the wrong thing, and all of a sudden their entire careers are over. And other times some stars are being protected even though they have done horrible, horrible things. Now personally, I don't know anything about Seagal in regards to what's true and what's not, but there is an old expression that relates to this. If you tell people a lie enough times, eventually they'll believe it.
Enough philosophy.
Alright gentlemen, it's time to check out another legendary legend, Chuck Norris. If you look up the name Chuck Norris in the dictionary, it will say, the baddest motherfucker that ever lived. Despite the fact that the man was not introduced to martial arts until the age of 18, he is still considered one of the greatest and most respected martial artists that ever lived. The man is a 10th degree black belt in karate and has the rank of Grandmaster. The man has studied so many different things. Now outside of karate and Tang Soo Do, Norris is expertly practiced in the Korean arts of Taekwondo and Hapkido. He has also learned martial arts from other regions, including Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Judo. However, his knowledge of Japanese martial arts doesn't end with Judo, as he has also studied the full contact art of Kyokushin, Goju and Kenpo. He holds black belts in Taekwondo, Karate, Judo and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. What I didn't know was that Chuck Norris has also studied Aikido.
Have you had much Aikido study? Oh, yeah. Yes, I've studied Aikido for several decades.
It sounds like the man has done it all. Chuck Norris' background on the world stage in martial arts is just as impressive as Arnold Schwarzenegger's accomplishments in the world of bodybuilding. And who can forget when the two badasses shared a legendary action moment in The Expendables Part 2. In fact, they both ruled the world around the same time. They both won the world championship 6 times in a row and retired undefeated. Alright, boys and girls, and the moment that we have all been waiting for. Man versus man. Legend versus legend. Okay, so before we literally take it outside, why don't we compare their movie careers? There's no doubt that Steven Seagal's movies made more money than the ones of Chuck Norris. However, Seagal's movies usually also had higher budgets, so there's also that. Steven Seagal was a bigger star in the 90s than Chuck Norris was in the 80s. There's just no way around that. However, one can ask the question, would there even have been a Steven Seagal or a Jean-Claude Van Damme if it had not been for Chuck Norris leading the way? Let's go back to the beginning. Bruce Lee definitely invented the martial arts genre, and you can say that Chuck Norris took it a step further, or Americanized it. As amazing as Bruce Lee was in the movies, the storylines and the acting was definitely secondary to all the action. And to this day, more than 50 years later, the main reason you're watching these movies are because of the fighting. Whereas Chuck Norris, that got involved with movies roughly 5 years after Bruce Lee's death, wanted to focus on something different. He didn't want to be involved with movies that would just open with a kick and end with a kick. He was much more interested in a good storyline with good actors, interesting characters, and good directing altogether. Chuck wanted his martial arts in the movies to be emotionally right, meaning that his character would back down from a fight until he had no other choice, and in the end, the audiences are rooting for the man. What a lot of people don't know is that Steven Seagal's first film, Above the Law, was actually directed by Andrew Davis, that also directed the Chuck Norris film Code of Silence just 3 years earlier. Both movies actually dealt with a tough, badass cop, and they also both took place in the city of Chicago. And a lot of the actors were also the same, including the bad guy in both movies were played by the same actor. Later on, Steven Seagal and director Andrew Davis would team up again, this time in Under Siege. Now, martial arts teaches you a lot of great things, like discipline and how to be confident in your own abilities. And these two gentlemen are no exception to the rule. Now, let's ask Chuck Norris who he would put his money on in regards to who's the best martial artist in Hollywood.
I fought. I was a professional fighter for about 12 years.
Yay! Could you beat him? Just between you and me.
I'd kick their butt.
Okay, guys, did you hear that? He said, I'd kick their butts.
I'd kick their butt.
Well, I certainly would not mess with this man. But you know how it is. There's always at least one jackass in the crowd that has to fuck things up for everybody. So what action star would be totally disrespectful and walk up to this man?
They wouldn't dare.
Yeah, you definitely need to have a serious death wish to go after this guy. But what if you decided to go after this man with an entire army led by Charles Bronson himself?
They wouldn't dare.
Alright, now moment of truth. Who do you think would win a fight between these two warriors? Now, to some of you Seagal haters out there, try to leave your emotions out of it, because your emotions will cloud your judgment. It's hard to believe, but Chuck Norris is 83 years old and Steven Seagal is 71. So we're dealing with two senior citizens here. Of course, I would never say that to their face. Let's focus on two scenarios, two fights. Let's say one of them were to take place today and another one when they were in their prime. Now, Chuck Norris have actually had hip replacement surgery, which does not help if you have to get into a fight as a martial artist. Now, we can also look at Seagal and say getting older does not make you faster, and putting on quite a bit of weight does not help either. It's simply called father times, and we all have to deal with it if we want to stick around for a while. 12 years age difference matters a lot when you get older, whereas let's say when Seagal was 25 and Norris was 37, I don't think it would have mattered that much. What's really funny here is that Chuck Norris is actually 2.5 years older than Joe Biden. And check out how Chuck Norris moves compared to, the other guy.
Watch me.
330 million people lives in the US, and this is the best we got. God have mercy on America. Since things cannot get much worse in America, I suggest the solution to all our problems. Chuck Norris for president. Oh yeah, I should probably mention, just in case you've been living under a rock or literally in outer space, Trump actually did win re-election in 2024. However, I still have to say, I think Chuck Norris would have been one hell of a president. But there's always 2028, 32, 36, because apparently being an older president is not a problem these days. So Chuck can easily run when he's in his 90s, wouldn't you say? I mean, we are talking about Chuck Norris here. Okay, enough jokes here. Back to the fight. I'm actually a huge Chuck Norris fan and always have been, but I'll still try to be non-biased. If the fight were to take place today, I think it would be perhaps close to a tie. With a little bit of luck, maybe Seagal would even have the upper hand. Now, of course, in their prime, I think it would be a very different story. Now, as Chuck said earlier, he was a professional fighter and he had a ton of fights in the ring, whereas Seagal never actually competed. That changes things. In my mind, if the fight were to take place in the ring, Chuck would win, hands down. If it was a street fight, I think Seagal would do better, but I don't know if he would actually win. However, when you take everything into consideration and you add it all up, I will still put my money on Chuck. Okay, so if Chuck Norris is the better fighter, how do we even the odds? Then again, 2 against 1, it just doesn't seem fair, does it? Unless, of course, Chuck got a little bit of help. Guys, could you imagine what a fight like this would look like? Chuck Norris and Mike Tyson versus Bruce Lee and Steven Seagal. It would be the fight of the century. All I can say is, get the popcorn ready. Now, it might actually be interesting looking into what a fight like this would look like. But, first things first. Alright, my friends, I hope you had some fun here today. But I have a request. Who do you think would win a fight in real life between these two action legends? Why don't you comment and let me know? And of course, if you want to see some more immature action shit like this, click right here. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.